The information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only. The views expressed are based on personal experience and knowledge and should not be considered as professional advice. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and consult with qualified professionals before making decisions based on the content discussed. The creator of this video is not responsible for any actions, decisions, or outcome resulting from the use of this information. Use the content at your own discretion. And there you go, guys. We finally decided that it is time to share. It is time to finally do it, guys. And that's why I came up with the Diary of a Migrant. It's a whole new concept when it comes down to a podcast, and hopefully many more guests will be joining us in the future, sharing their stories as being a migrant. What I mean about a migrant is not a negative word. It's a very interesting word because it just means about you going out there and looking for better opportunities for your own life and for your family. And this whole concept and this whole field, I don't think there's a lot of information out there because there's a lot of gurus, there's a lot of motivational stuff that actually are very useful, but don't necessarily apply to us if you are coming from overseas. And this whole point of this whole podcast is basically to give you a really deep insight of the life of every single migrant, how they came, how they build, what stage they are in, and we're gonna have a different variety of fields, studies, and specializations. You're gonna have people that work in corporate jobs that are totally fine with it. You're gonna have young entrepreneurs, and who knows? People keep surprising me every single time, but here we go, guys, and I hope you're gonna really gain from it, to give you a good understanding, a little sense of reality to what exactly is happening out there if you are leaving your country to go pursue other things and other opportunities. So my name is Madi Azer, and I've been here living in Budapest for the past 7 years. And man, what I can tell you, it's been a journey itself. And I think it had forged me, the person who I am today, and all the life lessons that I've gathered throughout my life that made me able to sustain what I'm sustaining right now. I'm currently a personal trainer. I have my own business, a fitness application running, and obviously to be at this position, it was never like this. But I need to bring you back a little bit of history to give you my path, to give you my experience and what I've understood from this life to becoming now an entrepreneur in business, the whole struggle behind it, and what are my decisions that I've made that really affected me. And I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of youngsters, when they go abroad, I wish I knew what I'm about to say to you guys before, because it would have saved me a lot of the time, and obviously directed my energy towards the right direction. So I went to university for my bachelor's at Kezdi Marbach Wergla. It's a university situated, one of the greatest English language universities in Algeria, in the desert. A very specific one. And I can tell I had a lot of beautiful memories from that time. So I was originally studying in Algeria. I'm Algerian. And from that point specifically, I thought, hey, I need to find better opportunities, and unfortunately the society that I was living in did not really offer that many opportunities for individuals like me that are seeking for more harder challenges and bigger challenges. So that's one of the reasons why I decided to go and study abroad. But at that time, it's very tough. You don't have a lot of knowledge, because what is separating us from others is just simply information. And I think if we had access to some information much more sooner, actually we'll be saving a lot of time, because time, you can't get it back. So I was graduating university, and decided to apply for this scholarship called Stipendium Hungaricum, which is a scholarship between the two countries, based in Hungary, Budapest. And trust me, I've never thought about it. and it was an opportunity that was on my lap that I seized it and made the best out of it. If you had asked me 7 years ago that I'm gonna be living here for the next 7 years, I'll be quite surprised. I probably won't believe you. But so I got the scholarship. So I was looking for some programs online and then got this scholarship, applied for it as a student. And then I came here to study, and then I finished my studies after I did my master's here for 2 years in English literature. And then at that time, that's where the whole roller coaster started. And I think this is a moment in one's life that is actually very crucial, because it's really, this is the type of moments and decisions that you're going to be making which will affect the rest of your life. So it cannot be taken for granted or just at ease. So I graduated, finished the university, and at that point right there, I really didn't know what to do with my life. I was falling in love with many things. I was mainly more into theater and acting and commercials and so on at that time. And that's the whole point. The only difference between a migrant and between somebody that is currently a citizen of the country is that you don't have the pressure of the immigration. Because if you really wanted to stay in this country, you needed to find a job, and the only way for you to find to stay in that country is to get that job through a company, a corporate job that offers you an 8 to 5 job with a normal salary. And then obviously there's different specializations. And I know that many of the expat community here in Budapest have went more towards this path, because it was the only option available. And the other way, which is to go and become an entrepreneur or open your own business, that's a whole different story, because it all depends basically of the capital that you have and the guts, and that's something that it's very hard to explain, but only once you experiment it, you start understanding things. And you see a lot of podcasts out there and motivational speeches, and sometimes when I listen to them and I am like, oh, okay, this is really what's happening, I kind of understand it. But then when you experiment it and you're reflecting back, and it's like, wow, I've thought about it before, but but in the same way, it's like you learn in that way. And there are some mentalities of people, like some people learn on the field and some people learn in the back. So it depends on your path. So I started my corporate journey because I didn't know what to do. And I think this is a time of your life where you're like very confused of what you wanted to do. And we were forced to find a job in order for us to stay in the country and carry on. So I started working as a customer service with a company that sponsored my permit, which allowed me to stay. And I did customer service for 1 year. And then I had to change the job because of internal problems in the company. So I changed the job and I went for an IT specialist in a different company. And there was like during 6 or 8 months before the COVID started, actually. So the thing about it is that I worked for 8 months in the other company, and then COVID happened, and then they had to lay off most of the people, and I was among the people over there. So among the list of those who got laid off. I mean, to be honest, I basically couldn't keep a job. Yeah, so that was at that time. So immigration state happened, and then there was a state of emergency that really benefited my status of immigration, because you cannot travel back home and there were no flight back home. But at the same time, I needed money to survive. And that's where you start thinking, oh snap, I don't know what to do. And time passes and your fundings are going low, and then up, you have 1 month left in your apartment. So this is the type of situation that I was going through, which was unfortunate, because I did not plan the savings, nor I wanted to disturb my family to ask them for some fundings to help me out for that situation. So I needed to figure out a solution for me to sustain my lifestyle. And that's the reason why I invented myself and I started working as I wouldn't say entrepreneur because I didn't own anything, but I was getting small jobs. So I was having a lot of friends that had small businesses, and I was like, maybe if I can go work there, bartender here, dishwasher here, waiter here, and cook here. So it was a very variety of jobs that were available. And obviously you couldn't work under their company because they needed to sponsor your visa, but there was a way, because at that time there is a taxation called Kata in Budapest, in Hungary, which kind of like benefits you of you being a solo entrepreneur, so you could invoice the people who are you working with, even companies. So that's that one, they took it off recently. So at that time there was a possibility. So I started invoicing to my solo entrepreneurship status. I had to open it to show that there is a money transactions happening, that there is a cash flow, that that something is happening, because that's very, very important for the government and your immigration status. You have to show that you are very useful to the government, to the country that you are living in, that you are contributing to the well-being of the society, which I believe is totally fair. And I think this is what it's all about. We come over here, we leave our family, and we come here to take risks. So we need to fit in this society and be very respectful towards the culture that we are currently living in. And then I know a lot of people decide, even including myself in the past, is like start blaming the country. Oh, the country is racist, they don't accept us and all of that. No, they don't accept you because you are not doing anything that is beneficial for the society. And I think this is what it has to be about, because it's not always about you. It's about also what you could give. So if you see it from this angle here, you start to understand that, hey, I don't think they're really racist. It's just they don't find you very useful. So yeah, so that's something that's a very harsh reality to accept. And I don't like to play this racist card most of the time, and this victim mentality, and always blaming, oh, the government here, the government there. Like, nobody's perfect, and shit is happening everywhere, especially right now around the world. And we can't do much about it, but what we can do is how we could change our reaction towards this sorts of situation. All right. So after we got to the point where I was doing these small jobs, and I was working to sustain myself, I needed something. So I was still applying for other jobs, and I got this job at another company as a human resource, which also I worked there for like 2 months, and then they fired me. And that's where everything goes down and things start happening. This is the sort of situation you could be expecting yourself if you are, for example, working for a company and they decide to lay you off. As a migrant in another country, in a foreign country, if you are working in a company, you don't have that much freedom. That means if they lay you off, that means you have to leave the country, or you have 1 month to find another job, which is pretty much impossible if you are looking to find a job within that month. Because in order to apply for another job, it takes at least 3 to 4 months. Do you have enough fundings to sustain yourself for those 3 to 4 months before you start working in your next job? And then you don't get paid on the first day, you get paid after 1 month. So there's a lot to think about and a lot of calculations to be made if such a situation could be happening like that. So emergency fundings are very important. But unfortunately, like me, I didn't have the knowledge that I have today, so I could prepare myself if something is happening or so on. I was young and stupid. So everything that was coming in, I was spending it, because it's not like it was much, it was a lot of money. With inflation was going, it was very tough. So I lost the job, and then boom, I am back again to the starting point without paperwork. I have 30 days notice, and I have exactly 300, almost 1,000 euro left. And thank God I was with a very beautiful partner at that time that really helped me in my situation. And then it was the time of decision making. It was a time where you have to decide either you want to follow this path or you want to follow this path. You know, you could If you want to follow the comfortable path, which is you want to go get a job, which is totally fine, and there is nothing wrong with that. Whatever makes you happy. If it makes you happy, that's very important to put that into consideration whatsoever in terms of the decisions that you have to make. So for me, I had two decisions. Either I keep applying for another jobs, which I did at that time, and I did find another job, or I take those 1,000 euros that I had left and go and make a down payment for a university in order for me to become a personal trainer. So this is the moment in my life that really gonna shape the rest of my life, or at least the next couple of years. And it was a big decision, you know. I was like, okay, well, it's time. It's time to take a risk. Because in this life, if you do not take risks, do not expect yourself to go somewhere. In this life, if you want to become something, or grow, or pursue something that is higher than your level at that time, you have to sacrifice. And that's very important for you to understand, so you could pursue the goal with also a decent sense of reality. Dreaming big is very good, but step by step is very, very important. So I took that decision and I said, enough is enough. I really love fitness. I really like fitness, and I was training since I was 16 years old, and that's also why it was always part of me. That always brought me discipline. That always brought me to my roots and kept my things together, working out. So that was my secret, if you would like to know about it. But at that time I was like, okay, if I really love fitness and I really love what I'm currently doing, why don't just I become a personal trainer? Boom. I was like, all right, I think it's time right now. I went, applied for a course online at the University of Arizona, and from there I was like, okay, now I got my certificate. Now what's the next step? All right, well, I decided to go and pursue personal training in a gym. So I applied for a gym. I was looking for a gym. Not easy to find at that time. Then I found a gym. And then it was basically showtime. And that's where, okay, I think I love what I do. I really love what I do. And actually, it doesn't feel like work to me, because I really love what I do. And that's what brought me to where I am today, through the personal training, because I fell in love with it. And obviously many other opportunities opened their doors when it comes down to real estate and so on. But it is also important for you guys to understand that even when I was working as a, let's say, 8 hours a day, when I was working a corporate job, and then when I got laid off, I was also working as a labor worker with my friend Kenny. And I think that played a major role, because that established my knowledge for my future sales and jobs that I had. So during that time where I was making that decision of pursuing personal training and so on, I was always doing something on the side. And that was construction at that time. And there were days when I was working for 12 hours a day for 20 euros. It wasn't that much, but it was still something to work with. I gathered my knowledge and I started working with my friend, and then I scaled it and I started taking different projects by myself, and then I started growing the company, and then I started hiring people also when I was as a side hustle on the side. And that played a major role in my establishment of my today's situation, because from that labor work, it really gave me a decent understanding of customer service, IT, and human resources. So even the previous jobs that I had in all of the companies, I didn't just pick the job that I found. So I was applying for positionings that I thought there's gonna be very beneficial for me in the future if I ever decide to open my business. And at that time, I had all of the knowledge. So I started taking on board construction project and scaling that business, meanwhile still applying, because I didn't believe I could do it by myself, and I didn't have the self-confidence in me to think that, hey, I think I don't need another company. I think I can do it by myself. I'm gonna do it. So I didn't have that until 1 year in. after when I was doing my personal training. So even when I was doing personal training, I was also doing construction. So as soon as I finished work at the gym, I go straight to the construction site, double check what the guys did, clean, do whatsoever. So that was my mentality. I have an hours a day. I need to be productive, and I went to the old type of jobs. I let the ego down completely, and I went and did everything. So for me, and that's very, very important to understand also when you're in your 20s, try things, experiment other fields to know exactly what you want and what you are pursuing. So after I decided to do this whole personal training, I then decided to, oh, it's time for me to open my own business and make my own fitness application, which it came to light recently. It's called Duty Time Fitness Application. If you guys are looking for any training programs and more to offer, you can check our website. However, all of this didn't come from like nowhere. It is step by step by step by step, which led me to that I am today. I'm not very happy with the situation, but at least it puts me exactly where I wanted to be. And that's something very important because it gives you hope and it gives you confidence in yourself that any situation comes towards you, you could handle it whatsoever. And that's very important to keep in mind. So that was my whole story, which to my point today, making this video with you. It was a journey. It was a journey with a lot of downs, a lot of downs, not a lot of highs, but it is what it is, and that's the journey itself, and a lot of failures, a lot of stress, and thank God finally right now it is a stable situation, but more to go. And this is very important for you to understand as well, that when you are coming to a different country, what are the type of challenges that you can be facing? You know, it can be from the simple language. Language barrier is very, very tough. Be at least motivated to learn a little bit about the language of the country that you're living in. Do not come in the country and say, no, I'm not going to live here for too long, so I don't need to learn the language. I don't need it. So don't be that type of person. Go in with a very curious mind, very hungry mind, because there's not a lot of advantages when you're a migrant. But the most beautiful advantages are life experience and learning about other people's culture, other people's tradition, their way of thinking, their way of talking. So, and when I say, for example, why Budapest is the perfect country for me, because it aligns with my principles and values, but most importantly, it's right in the middle of Europe, and there is a lot of people from all around the world. And trust me, you'll be meeting a lot of exciting people and crazy people, but that's what makes the beauty of the city itself. So you always have to come in with this mindset, and also keeping in mind, like, if you really do you want to stay in this country or not? Because the sooner you answer this question, the more beneficial it will be for you if you are looking to get a passport or permanent residency. Because without the permanent residency, for example, you're not really entitled to a lot of stuff, you know, and that's something that is unfortunate. You know, if I will give you a good example is that, okay, you've been working, you saved some money to make a down payment for a property, so you could apply for a loan to go and buy a house, right? Well, it doesn't work like that. So if you are a migrant and you are under a work permit, you cannot get a loan from a company from a bank for you to apply, so you could buy a property, simply because you're not a permanent resident and you need to spend at least 5 years in the country for you to apply for that permanent residency, and maybe you'll get it or not. So that's also very important to keep in mind, that you don't have access to loans or you don't have access to business loans. I mean, unless your company was operating for 3 years with a very decent cash flow, but that's a whole different thing that we will have to talk about, which is business more related, and so on. So there is a lot to know. You know, you could not come in to a new country with empty luggages, without a plan, without a strategy, with what exactly you are looking for. I mean, we all know that most of us in our countries want to leave our countries, and this is exactly everywhere. Because it is natural for the person to hate the place that he has been living for the last 20 years and that he hasn't seen anything else. Obviously, everybody wants to leave their country. And that's not one thing in some specific countries. This is everywhere. And this is something happening. You know, you get bored because you're tired of living in the same environment and there is nothing exciting. Or maybe that's a little sign for you that it's time for you to start flying with your own wings. But that all depends on what you're looking for and what really makes you happy. So you have to always come in here prepared to know at least, do you really like this country or not? Do you like the studies or not? I mean, I came here to study English literature. Believe it or not, Hungary has one of the best universities. I went to ELTE University, Eötvös Loránd University, one of the greatest university, great teachers, and I cannot deny that I had the most beautiful university years of my life. I would not take one thing back from it. But that was very good for me because I could still pursue my studies and something that I was good at least. So at least you have a little decent understanding and the sorts of things you could be facing when you come here as a new as a person looking for better opportunities. And that's why picking the right country as well is very important. If you don't speak the language, at least have the decency to get the motivation to learn or try to learn the language in order for you to navigate through this life properly. So this is my personal experience. This is my story and my path. And I really hope that it gives you a decent understanding or at least a taste or a glimpse of what are the potential challenges you could be facing if you are coming from a third world country or a country that doesn't have where you need a visa to enter, for example, Europe or any other countries. And most of these rules about loans and residence permit are quite similar all around. The only major differences that you would see is probably for the term of how long you can get this citizenship or how long you can get the permanent residency. It all depends on the numbers of years. But like once I said, like I always say, it depends on what makes you happy and what really aligns with your own principles and values. So always make good plans. So when you come here, you are not surprised if you're facing any issues and you know what you're going to be expecting. That's it for me, guys, today. I really hope that you had a decent understanding and learned something new. And there you go. And more guests will be coming in the future, so get ready for that. Because right now, this is my story, and there is many more to come because there is a lot of beautiful success stories of people that came from nothing to something.